Well, here we have, I think, probably the last episode here at Supply Chain Week. This is the Supply Chain Podcast channel, and we have Dan Ulmamei from Swisslog. All right, I got it right the first time.
You did, yes.
So how about this? Let's start off. Let our listeners and our audience understand, who you are. Who is Dan? What's your background, and how have things been for you so far?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Peter. First of all, it's been an amazing 2 days here at Supply Chain Week. We're really proud to be partnering with the organization and talk to customers and with the industry. So my name is Dan. I've been in this industry for about 30 years now, 20 odd years in Europe and maybe nine in Australia. I work for Swisslog. Swisslog is one of the top tier industrial logistic automation suppliers in the world, and I represent one of the 4 regions of Swisslog. So we have the EMEA, Americas, Southeast Asia, and Australia and New Zealand. And I've been with the company for about 3 years now.
Yeah, okay. So I would say the reason why I'm tripping over the last name, because where are you from originally?
Oh, I was born in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
I was born in Romania, where I got my degree. Then in engineering.
Oh.
I'm an engineer at heart.
Yeah.
Then I got a scholarship for a business degree in the UK, where I met my wife. My wife is Portuguese, and I moved to Portugal, where I started in this industry.
Yeah.
As I was saying in the luncheon today, about 30 years ago, as a designer, literally with pen and paper. I did not have a CAD computer. I had a tilting table, and I had all the instruments back in the day, designing equipment for this industry.
Yeah.
And first time I saw one of my designs coming to life and being installed on one of these amazing sites, and a happy customer in front of a system that was running, pallets for them, I got hooked, and I said, this is it for me. I'm always going to be in this industry. I just love it, and it's especially now, it's one of the best places to be.
Yeah.
With everything booming in supply chain.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of things to talk about that, and I really want to get back to the one bit. We also had a guest earlier on the show who has been in the industry 40 years. You said the first time that she got in, she was writing up pen and paper on ordering billing sheets
Exactly.
to then mail to the contractors in China. I was like, wow. And of course, I'm not saying that as about age, but it's how much has changed in this amount of time. And so a good segue into technology. So what are some exciting emerging technologies that you guys are implementing, or what do you see in the industry that has come a long way since when you first started? Yeah.
Well, if I go back 30 years ago, to be very honest, the projects were much more simple. Not that they were smaller, they were very large projects. And we were doing projects from around the world, from Argentina to New Zealand, from Europe.
Yeah.
They were a bit more simple. So things have evolved. Today, it's about, I would say, really understanding the customer's processes, which have evolved as well, as you said, from pen and paper. Now the customers have everything you can imagine, especially in warehousing, where we are, between the 4 walls, not in production, but in warehousing, it's very complex, and everything is about software. Yeah. And we lead with software. Software is attached to deeply understanding the customer processes and where we can add a value, tailor the software that it talks to those processes, and then the automation, the mechanical, electrical, and PLCs, and everything comes behind that.
Yeah.
But that's where we are today. Nothing runs without software. We actually, our software is one of the best in the market, if not the best, I would say. Yeah. To the point that we have customers which is actually applying our warehouse management system on manual operations.
Oh, okay.
That's how tailored it can be to the customer's needs.
Yeah. So, of course, software, it's natural that the next step, and one of the questions that we keep asking and talking about, because the buzzword of the moment is AI.
Yes.
So how have you seen that as a what does AI do for the logistics industry, and talk about that generally, but also specifically what do you guys do around that?
That is a very interesting question, because it's almost like greenwashing. You have to be very careful about what you're saying you're doing, because it's
AI
already here.
Learning,
it's not coming anymore. It's here. It's not about whether you're going to adopt it or not. It's about what you're doing with it. Yeah. And it can be everything like using Copilots or ChatGPT or whatever for your every day, but it moves into creating code if you do it properly.
Exactly.
It moves into developing, in our industry, super intelligent algorithm for storing in to storing out. Or as we have, for example, we're going to showcase very soon in Australia, in Sydney, is where we have embedded AI into our item pick robots. So we have a system that picks actually individual items from a tote into a customer carton or whatever the process is.
Yeah.
We have already the new 2.0, let's call it this way, robot that is coming up soon in Sydney for display, where we have embedded the AI technologies related into the way the robot deals with the items. Meaning it learns, it tries to pick a certain item that's never seen before in a totes.
Yeah.
And it learns itself. It tries in one way, it fails, it tries again until it gets a good grip on it.
Yeah.
If it fails still, automatically changes the gripper until it finds the right gripper to pick that odd object.
Yeah.
Then it's not necessarily a flat surface black box or something. It's plastic, it's colored, it's angled, it's round shaped, whatever it is, till it's gonna find it.
Yeah.
So it self-learns, embeds that in so next time it sees it,
It
no
knows,
matter where it
yeah.
is in the tote, it knows exactly how to pick it. Which
amazing.
opened up amazingly
Yeah.
the range of items we can now pick with the robot.
Yeah. So,
And we will showcase that very soon.
oh wow, I'm excited just to hear about that. I think that'll be great to get like, you know, how that will work. And so then what does automation and what does AI, all these, what does it mean for the industry? As in,
Yeah.
it means obviously that, like, you know, there will be a change in, like, you know, how people kind of interact with how the processes are. So is that process going to be taking jobs, making jobs?
No,
what does that do?
We're into do more with what you have. In Australia
Yeah.
and New Zealand at the moment, you know what the price of industrial real estate is.
Mm.
We have a lot of customers that are growing that can't yet move out to another shed, either
Yeah.
because it's expensive, either because the availability is just not there yet.
Yeah.
And they're calling us in, they're saying, how can we do more with what we have?
Yeah.
How can we upskill our
okay.
people, bring automation in, and double our business within this footprint?
Yeah.
We see a lot of that happening. So let's say when you do, going back to the example that I gave you with the automatic picking, let's say you have an operation where you work 2 shifts a day, and you have a GTP station, a goods to person station, where you pick and pack stuff for your customers. So the automation provides the item, operator puts it in a bag,
Yeah.
ships it to a customer. Yeah. If you bring the robot in, and if you can plan your orders ahead, the automation can do 2 things for you. Can pre-pick for you during the night when nobody's there,
Yeah.
and prepare the order for next day.
Mm.
Could be complete orders, it could be topped up by a man or by a person the next day, by a man
Yeah.
or woman next day, and that would improve a lot the efficiency of the packing process. Or it can do it autonomously, just a full order.
Yeah.
It really depends on how many items, the type of items, and whatever you have in your business.
Yeah.
So that would definitely enhance the capabilities of our customers to increase and grow their business without adding a lot of people or a bigger space,
Yeah.
which again, compared to the market today, we just can't find anymore.
Yeah. So like, you know, you mentioned earlier around technology and around software. So are there any barriers that will prevent a warehouse company or for them
Yes.
to kind of, like, you know, step into? What are some of those barriers?
Yeah, some of the barriers are well, software doesn't do anything. It does a lot, but not on itself. You need, as I said, to embed that software into the customer processes. And we see a lot of systems where you have an ERP, you have a WMS, and you have a WCS, and they are not from the same supplier.
Yeah.
But if you could merge at least the WMS and the WCS, which is what our software called Sync does,
Yeah.
then it's a seamless integration between the electromechanical equipment to the connection to the ERP.
Right. Okay.
So that's seamless. That makes it a lot easier. Barriers in terms of implementing these systems are, I think the Australian customers are keen and are eager to implement automation. So I don't see a lot of barriers there. Business cases, return on investments,
Yeah.
sort of these things come into place a lot more today than in the past.
So
But I
maybe-
wouldn't say it's a barrier. I say
Yeah.
they're challenges that we'd love to embrace.
Yeah.
If we're very transparent and partner with the customers, we can definitely help in there.
Of course. So maybe do you want to share an example of somebody who you have kind of, like, you know, able to help, and then, like, you know, what type of results they were able to
Yes,
to
we
achieve?
just had a luncheon here, and we invited one of our customers, the CEO of the JCar Group, present their experience, their journey in automation, and their experience with Swisslog on the back of
Yeah.
that, because it was our guest, obviously. And they've explained, like, literally down to numbers and square meters and availability of the system, how they grew their business in a much smaller footprint than they had before. So the business case was just not stacking up, let's put it this way. The business was growing, and they decided to go out and build a system that helped them nowadays to do a lot more they ever dreamed of.
Okay, well, I think that's fantastic, and one of the other things that, so I think it'll be good for you to explain, because I got my researcher to do some of the homework. AutoStore multi-temperature solution, is that something you have, and you want to tell us about that? I understand only what I've read very briefly, but what is that, and how does that work?
So we are, I would say, if not one of the biggest integrators and partners of AutoStore, which is a high density storage system, ASRS system. We're definitely the biggest one in this part of the world, and we have the second biggest system in the southern hemisphere, up in Melbourne. It's not a multi-temperature system, but a multi-temperature system allows sort of the robots to go in and out of a temperature controlled area. So imagine e-groceries, for example, as an example, where you want to store fresh produce into it. You need to have temperature control on one side, but you also have cereals in the other side, for example. You don't need that, because it's expensive, obviously, to keep the control. Now, AutoStore systems now allow to use the same system and robots moving between one place to another and pick from both areas.
Okay, that's interesting.
So it opens up a lot of sort of the application of an AutoStore into this area. But we are very proud to say that we have the same for pallets. And we actually have systems in Australia at the moment for pallets that are actually in 25 degrees minus or 10 minus or ambient temperature, moving pallets between these areas.
Okay. Well, I think something, so you guys had like a lunch in here, and you've been to a lot of these conferences and all that. I just wanted to ask, were there any topics that you have that you think are interesting that most people are talking about? What are the trends besides, I think, AI, and we'll talk about maybe sustainability in a bit, but what are some other trends that you have seen that are causing people to stop and think? What are future trends in the industry that you can kind of share with us?
Well, let's say the industrial real estate availability is not going to change. If anything, it's going to get worse. There's not a lot you can do anymore. So that in itself is a driver for automation. The Australian economy is still growing, and the companies are growing, and do more with what we have. It's still, I still see that happening in the next years. The other trend is a lot of small companies are moving into automation because of the same reason. And that's us with AutoStore and small flexible solutions that are scalable. We can help. You don't have to spend 20, 30 million in a system like that. You can start small.
Right.
You can start small, and you can cover a first part, let's say, of your processes and of your business with automation. That's the biggest bang for your buck. And then you can build up from there. So that tendency of start small and growing, we can see that a lot. We get a lot of requests for small systems at the moment. People that just want to dip their toes in the water, say, what can automation do for us? A lot of people are calling us in that never had automation, say, how can we automate these processes? How can we grow? I was talking to a potential customer in Melbourne a while ago, and he said, if I talk to my supply chain and I tell them I want to grow tenfold the business in the next 10 years, they're going to come up with a business case. They're going to say, this many people, this many forklifts, these are the safety issues that we're going to have, this is how much building. If I call you in, very different setup.
Okay.
So this is something. Obviously, technology, everybody's asking us what's next. AI, as we mentioned, as we talked about that. But it all comes down at a sort of a end-to-end. People are looking at end-to-end solutions, and that's where we help. Within the four walls, we can do everything end-to-end. We're not into transportation or logistics. We have partners for that. But within the warehousing, we can cover everything at the moment. Complete and full solution. That's what they look for. They look for one-stop shop. They don't want to build and integrate themselves. And that's the capabilities that we have to integrate all of our solutions and third-party solutions under Sync, which is our software head.
Okay. Wow, I think that's really amazing. Last kind of external topic, or maybe I might have another one if I think of it, but sustainability. That's obviously we just talked a little bit earlier around greenwashing, and supply chain has a really big footprint, right? We definitely to imagine that somebody like Amazon Prime delivers in 2 hours just to deliver something minuscule in the kind of it's a Herculean effort to do something so small. How do you guys kind of approach this topic?
Very good question, and it's two layers to your question, if I may. So yes, you have to be careful what you declare, everybody. But we have very, very clear examples of why we have better equipment than others. Let's take the cranes, for example. Cranes that are going to put a pallet at 30 meters high. It's a massive machine weighing 15 tons. Our cranes, on average, weight 7 tons less than the competition. We're moving much less steel. We've been doing cranes since 1969. They're the best in class. Plus, our cranes have systems which regenerate energy, just like a Tesla. When it stops, because if you just let it go, it's going to put all that motion energy, kinetic energy into the battery. Our cranes are doing the same thing. So as the hoisting carriage comes down, or as the crane is slowing down, all that energy is regenerated, put back in the, so they're consuming very, very. The robots in AutoStore running on top of a grid, of a high density grid, which is low footprint to begin with, they consume something like a light bulb.
Oh, wow.
So they're really, really low consumption. So these are very, very practical examples that we can show and not claim and not run the risk of being accused. So there are things that we're already doing today, and we've been doing for a few years. We should have maybe shouted out that we're doing that, but it's becoming more of a thing today.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate chat here. So I want to go on, but I will want to stop into doing something more personal. So this section we call chain reaction, where we want to ask to know you a bit better. So what is it, Dan? So what is it you do outside of work, outside of Swisslog? What is your go-to for relaxation?
Yeah, for me it's Latins say mens sana in corpore sano. I try to stay healthy and stay fit. So I haven't done it in a while, but I practice fencing, the sport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with a uni club here in Sydney. I've been injured, so I need to get back into it. I keep telling myself I'm going to go back into it, but it's going to happen pretty soon. I do a little bit of scuba diving every now and then, a lot of outdoorsy things. That's why one of the reasons we moved to Australia was the outdoorsy life. Keep myself, I like to read a lot. Different things in different times of my life. Let's put it this way: my interests have changed. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, that is good. On this topic, the next thing I would like to ask is: so, what is a book that you have read that you think everybody should read? What will be a book that you recommend?
Again, that has changed during the years.
So right now, what is the one that was recent?
Yeah, something that I have actually revisited recently. It's a book by David Goldman, I think. It's called Emotional Intelligence at Work. Because us in Swisslog, we've gone through a massive cultural transformation. We're all about culture, about the belief in people, and people are going to drive your bottom line. Engagement and so on. And I think emotional intelligence helps leaders better understand and connect with their teams and the people around them. And this is a very specific, good book on emotional intelligence at work. How do you use that use it in your everyday life?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think it's one of my favorites at the moment. Yes.
All right, cool, interesting. I think that's one that we can all look out for.
I'm not sure about the writer again. I have to, because I'm reading 2 or 3. Normally, I have 2 or 3 books on my stand.
Okay.
Yeah, I like to mix and match.
What would be something that someone who's new in the industry? So you have more experience than a lot of people here. What would be a word of advice you would give someone who just joined or just had a couple of years start in this industry? How can they sustain themselves across this time with passion or continue doing what they do? What would you say to them?
Well, as I said, 30 years ago, if you talk about supply chain, maybe most of the people would think about logistics and transportation. The industry has evolved a lot. So I would say, seriously consider the human side of automation and the automation. Just try to come into that space, because it's the future within this industry. We cannot talk about supply chain, to be very honest, today without talking about automation.
Yeah, of course.
Everything. And I think that's evolving. We talked about AI, we talked about all the technological aspects, but I think it's going to make an even bigger impact in the future. So look into that area, find a place into that area, because it's a growing area and it's going to continue to grow. Yeah,
okay. Last question. So what was the last thing you bought online? Through our lovely supply chain, what was the last thing you ordered that got delivered to your house?
Yeah, it was actually an item from one of our customers, J-Car, for fixing my car.
Okay.
Yes, I actually like to buy things in store, because there's one store amazing store close to my house. But I also bought something online from them to fix my car. I still like to do things with my hands from time to time. I think that's another way to relax and disconnect a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Dan, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate the chat. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Very nice meeting you.